But with the return of Eckler, tell me the tenor or the tone that you were feeling Saturday as he's walking us through special teams and how he saw it versus the end of the game at the Pinstripe Bowl where he says we need a complete overhaul. How did you bridge the gap? What were your takeaways from Saturday as you heard what he said?
Well, I mean, when you're just after a football game, there's a lot of emotions running and kind of coursing through your veins. And I think in that moment, he probably just felt like, you know what, enough. And some of that was, I mean, they had other issues than the Snappers. Their return game was very iffy, especially in the punt group. But yeah, I think that's part of it. And then on Saturday, I think it's more, hey, we did a lot of good things in terms of our approach and our schemes and our mindset. Now we just need to get better at executing. And he said, the roster is better than it was last year. And I think he was referring to the special teams guys, but it frankly can be more than that. So, I think he, I think there's a sense of wanting to maybe turn the temperature down on the level of change. Now, that said, if you're hiring Mike Ekeler, which seems to be the case, you're going to get an overhaul.
Yeah.
You're going to get one. You're going to get an attitude overhaul and a culture overhaul. I mean, that guy is all fire.
Intense.
Yeah. And that you're going to get it. So whether you want it or not, that's what's going to happen. Now, I mean, schematically, you don't have to overhaul everything, but he will have a completely different tenor to the role, and he not that Foley was like a mild guy, but Eckler will just have a whole different fire to it, and he'll talk in a certain way, and he'll get those guys fired up, and he will bounce around the field. That's who he is. I'm sure he'll have a thought or two about the linebacker position, which is his expertise and his forte. So,
yeah, because
Eckler's,
as I'm listening from like the emotional standpoint of BC and the season versus what I saw. Yes, there's one thing I can really appreciate about Coach Rhule that I think is more of an explanation than an excuse, because I still think at the end of the day he's going to take accountability. I do see where you may run. Because I know they spend a fair amount of time on special teams. Like, I can vouch for that. It's not – I watch – you can see strategy and what they're after and live gunners and live returners. Like, I've seen – like, that's a real thing. That's not made up. The one thing that I could appreciate that I think we have to be able to sift through when he says it is if he prefaces something where he says, I don't want to speak bad about the players or throw the players under the bus. I think that's code for him saying, but sometimes we just got to play. You got to play better, right? Like if that thing is supposed to be punted down the right hash, punt it down the right hash. Nobody's telling you to return a ball from the 1 yard line or something like that. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
because what you're immediately going to get from like the fan base is, well, if you're not coaching it, then you're allowing it, and it's like, but we don't get any inklings of that in practice. So sometimes you have to kind of go through it. You know what I mean?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I think and snapping is such a specific skill.
Oh yeah, it is. It's brutal.
It's like darts, and I'm not trying to say it's but again, it's a skill. So it's not easy to control. You really do have to recruit it, and just like when you put a punter out there, you put a kicker out there, you're basically putting a wedge in their hand from 92 yards out and saying, oh, I'm going to put it within 5 feet and do it with a much larger ball than a golf ball. And that's not easy to do. Like, it's hard. It's very hard. And it used to probably be more like, well, kick it down there and we'll see what they do with the return. But special teams has become way more specialized since then. So now it really is about elite kickers and elite punters and elite snappers. You used to almost expect that you get 2 or 3 punts blocked a year, but that's not the case now. Like that's just not what you do. And so the level of quality that you have to have is very high. And on some level, you have to recruit it. You have to recruit a person who's able to do it, and then a person who's able to perfect their craft. And Nebraska's been hot and cold there, and the snapper thing is the one area where you would never expect it to crop up, but sometimes it does. And I'm obviously curious to see how good of a punter McAllister is coming in, and it does look like they have their kicker, or at least one kicker. I don't know, maybe they have 2. So,
I did think it was interesting because he's not a guy that will like throw you a soft bone in a presser. That he started with Tristan and made the distinctions between, hey, when Hole gets good snaps, good holds, he's proven. Like him making that distinction out loud, I think he's telling us the exact truth on how he feels about his 2 kickers.
Yes, I think so.
Right?
I think so. Yeah, absolutely. And I think he and Hole proved it at the end of the year. So he did a good job. And he missed one against Iowa, but that was a bad snap too. Cost him the game, unfortunately, in a lot of ways. But that wasn't his fault. I mean, it was a bad snap, and they ran into that kind of problem all year. So I'm sure they hope that it's been fixed, and they don't have a situation where people might recall if Nebraska's up 13-0 early in the third quarter against Iowa, then the 10 points don't matter. And at the end of the game, you get the ball back, you run out the clock, the game's over, and that's it. You don't even worry about the rest of it. But that's not what happened.
Sam McKewon here
for make field goals.
Sam McKewon here for Tiger Woods using the 7-iron out of the rough at Pebble in 2000. The impractical shot. That's the equivalent to long snapping, right? No, that degree, nobody could make that shot other than Tiger. So we're just going to go back with using the 56 or 60 degree club. Sam, that's long snapping? No,
it's a highly. I mean, the kickers and the punters will use golf as an analogy. I don't know what the snappers do.
It's funny. We have a couple guys that are pretty neurotic at our place for snapping and holding, and like when you're getting down into tenths, and it's not me. Some other guys.
Oh, okay.
When you're getting down to like 2-2 versus 2-1 versus 1-9 versus 1-8, you're 100% right, Sam. Like it is, you don't have a ton of margin for error. It doesn't work.
No, it doesn't. And again, I have little doubt that they can figure those things out. Some of it is recruiting. Again, Eckler will come in with a lot of energy. He'll give a really good press conference. At some point, he'll talk to somebody about the van and the running on this road and all that other stuff. That's the key for him coming in is he's got to take all of his energy and infuse it into that group, and he will. Yeah. Let's be clear. The last 4 years, I think at this point, like I'm more interested in what gets done on the field. He is an incredible story. He's a quirky guy. He's one of these guys that could probably do a free solo climb up a mountain wall. He's an incredible person.
Yeah.
But what he did at Tennessee, he was really good there. And no joke. Like he did a great job there. And I kind of know our media corps, so they'll get caught up in the other stuff. But like the reality is he did a really good job there, especially if they're returning him. And they got to be good there. And Nebraska's got to be better there, and they can be. And Eckler will infuse that energy. I think the way that he is matches the moment of coaching. Like, I think it matches the moment, and he'll have a big supporter in Will Compton. Obviously, Compton's a big Eckler guy. I think Levante was too. He coached Levante for a year. I think he's got a lot of credibility coming back here, and he will do a good job. They have struggled to have that level of, excitement and care factor on the special teams. Not with Foley, but certainly before that. One year they did it with, an analyst and that nobody even knew, and he was breaking the rules. And then they had other guys doing it who didn't really want to do it. So, Eckler loves it. He'll do it. He will be passionate about it, and Nebraska will get better as a result.
Talking to Sam McKewon from the Omaha World Herald. Sam, one more football question before we switch over to basketball here. Obviously, Nebraska gets the commitment of Rocco Spindler from Notre Dame.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel good about the offensive line room now? You still a little worried about tackles? Like, where's your mindset with that room now?
Well, you're always worried about the offensive line because you're worried somebody's going to get hurt. That's life. But they're a lot better than they were. So you do the best you can. I mean, that's just how life is. I'm sure there's been years where Michigan, who is probably the best offensive line consistent in the last 5 years, are like, oh, we don't have anybody. That happens. Mm-hmm. Ohio State, won a national championship with a constantly changing offensive line. So you do the best you can. And I think Nebraska's done really well there. I thought Rhule's comments about the defensive line on Saturday were notable too. He's like, it's going to be hard to replace Ty Robinson. He's right. It's going to be hard to replace Nash Hutmacher. He's right. I don't know that they have that. Williams Nwaneri could become it, but he's not 295 pounds right now. He's 265, 270. I've heard people compare him to Randy Gregory, and I'm like, well, that's fine. You need people inside though. You need inside players too. You can't. That's great if he's out there and he's being Randy, but I don't know that he is Randy. First of all, there's not many Randys. Second of all, I just don't know. I don't know if they want to put 25 pounds on Nwaneri and move him inside or what they want to do. We know what they want to do with McCullough, and that was good to hear that they want to make him an edge rusher. I think that's where he needs to be.
Now I'm not doing this because I think we undervalue how special RG was, and remember, this is a guy that got multiple opportunities in the league. Given what was coming with the baggage. So I'm not on the Gregory comparisons at all. But if I was going to choose between Nwaneri and McCullough's much closer, in my opinion. Than that, because Gregory, he's going to get forgot about because it comes with a lot of other stuff. His skill set. Very, very, very few peers in the last 15 years that have touched that campus. So I mean, Gregory was different. He was different.
Oh yeah. I mean, and people don't, and it doesn't make any difference. It's fine, but people do that all the time, and you got to watch it a lot, and you got to no, there's no comparison. What they could really use right now is a Malik Collins. And I don't know if they have that. People might remember Gregory and Malik were on the same team in 2013, and those two players are very important on that defensive front. It's probably the best defensive front Nebraska's had since joining the Big Ten. And so you have to find somebody who can be a plug in the middle. And I don't know exactly who that's going to be at this moment. Elijah Judy, obviously, they would love for that to be the case. I don't know if it will be. Who are the other large bodies in there? Ty and Nash were unique. They were big guys, and they were very strong, and they could move a little bit. And Ty could really move. So that's the question mark. The offensive line, they'll be okay. A lot of these teams have to mix and match, but on the defensive line, that's the question. The interior of the defensive line, how do they stop the run? How do they make other teams, one-dimensional?